Black Hills State fell to 4-4 overall and 3-3 in the RMAC last week after suffering a 42-17 home loss to number one Colorado Mines on Saturday night or Saturday afternoon. This week, the Yellow Jackets have an opportunity to get back on track as they travel to take on Fort Lewis. I'm Alex Dodd, and this is the Black Hills State Football Show presented by the Rapid City Journal. For 20 to 25 minutes each week, we'll take you inside the program with head coach Josh Breske. Coach, how's it going this morning?
It's going great, man. Excited to be back on the show. Thanks for having me.
What were some big takeaways for you guys in that game against Colorado Mines? Obviously, the final score I don't think really tells the whole story. You guys were leading at halftime. It was a one-score game going into the fourth quarter, and then things kind of took a turn. But what were some things that you guys kind of took away from film this week?
For sure. I think in watching the film, I was just, most impressed by, our defense and our offensive linemen. At times this season, our offensive line hasn't played up to their potential, and I think that they know that. And this is just a game where we saw incredible effort, I feel like, from my team, especially in the trenches. And I was definitely called that out on Monday and gave those guys praise. It's tough, it's tough to lose a football game, but to look your team in the eye. And I think it's important to be honest with them. And I told them, hey, you guys played your butts off. You guys gave an incredible effort. I really feel like the difference in the game was really, about the last, 15 to 20 minutes of the game. We began to get fatigued in the back end, and we just could not keep up with their passing game. And John Matoka ended up being John Matoka on another Saturday afternoon. And credit to their team. They're a very good football team. And, their firepower and their horses really stuck out, I think, in that second half. But I was excited and proud to walk into halftime and to have a lead on, the number one team in the country, a team that we've never beat before. And I think it shows our guys that we can play with the best teams in the country and certainly the best teams in this league. The question is just how long can we do that?
Do you feel like some of the guys on the offensive and defensive line maybe learned some things about themselves in that game too, with the way that they were able to compete against, a veteran defensive line and a veteran offensive line with a lot of talent that Colorado Mines has?
I certainly think they did. And, I'll keep going back to, we learned a lot of lessons back in, week 5 versus South Dakota Mines. That was a good learning game for us. And we've been, I think that we made the adjustments that we needed to make, and it was a huge wake-up call for us. And since that game, we've been seeing just such incredible play from our defensive lines in the games following the Tech loss. And so, yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like, and, our guys maybe had some of those aha moments like, hey, I am stronger than I thought I was. I can go harder than I thought I could. And, I'm really proud of how physical we played up front. We watched on film all week preparing for Colorado Mines, and you looked at their offensive linemen really just pushing people around, their defensive linemen causing a ton of chaos and getting in the backfield and bullying a lot of other offensive lines. And at no point did I feel like our offensive line got bullied or we couldn't keep up with their pressure. And same thing with the defensive line. We were able to cause chaos and be the aggressor and put pressure on them. So, I think we learned a lot about ourselves, and we need to carry those lessons and that momentum into these last 3 games.
In the first half, it seemed like you guys were able to pick up some chunk plays. You were able to move the ball pretty efficiently, and were able to use Tanner in the run game a lot too. It seemed like in the second half they were able to kind of bottle up some of those explosive plays and maybe keep you guys in check a little bit more. What do you think was kind of the difference in what Colorado Mines did defensively to limit some explosive plays in the second half?
Yeah, I didn't see necessarily any schematic changes from their defense in the second half. We made a couple of substitutions in some starting positions. Key one was our right tackle. We substituted Michael Forney in, who played really, really well versus Western in the previous week. And he came in for our starting right tackle, who's kind of going through some foot injury stuff right now, but he'll be fine. And, it's just little things. It was the issues, the mistakes were so minor, but end up being extremely costly and glaring versus really good teams like Colorado Mines. And we said that all week, that they are going to take advantage of people's mistakes, and we have to be able to eliminate the mistakes. And you look at one of our third downs, we put in kind of a little bit of a gadget play versus a look that they had shown on film where we knew exactly what we were going to get. It was a play that you saw Tanner pull the ball down, kind of looked like a quarterback draw to empty, and we ran it again in the third quarter, and we were about a few inches off on the block to getting a huge first down, and keeping the chains moving in positive territory. And we didn't get the block, and instead you get a 1 yard gain, and we have to punt the ball away. But we didn't score in the red zone every single time that we got a chance to, and then it seemed like in the second half we just weren't down there at all, and so we weren't able to complete passes the way we need to. The run game was going to be tough between the tackles, and we knew that, and we tried to exploit the edges a little bit, and they tackled very, very well, and they fit the run game very, very well all day.
How impressed were you with your defensive line in particular? We kind of talked about it all season, how you've been waiting to see them kind of have a breakout game where they're able to get after the quarterback, and they pick up 4 sacks against one of the best in the country. What do you think that kind of says about them, and how relieving was it to see that kind of come to fruition this past weekend?
Yeah, I think it says a lot just about their mentality, and it's a different mentality playing offense and defensive line, and even between those two positions, it's completely different type of mentality. But they're very well coached. My defensive line coach, Brendan Hopkins, does a great job coaching those guys. He coaches them hard. He loves up on them when he needs to, and I'm just very proud of that group for rising to the occasion, playing extremely physical, and getting in the backfield and sacking, the reigning Harlan Hill quarterback. And I was just really proud of their effort all around. I think there's still things that obviously we can clean up and get better at, but for the most part, that was one of the brightest parts of the game, was the pressure we were able to get. And we blitzed a lot too, and that helps them out. And I thought our linebackers did a really good job fitting the right gaps in those blitzes, and it didn't seem like necessarily it was the first guy who was making the sack. It was the second guy, because the first guy was forcing the quarterback to step up into another area, and it was just so great. It was a good start to the game. The pressure was, and but when we pressure and decide to send blitz and gas them up, it puts our DBs in cover 1 and cover 0 situations, and we just weren't able to withstand that coverage throughout the game. The separation between wide receiver and DB just continued to kind of grow and grow and grow, and that distance increased. And I think that's where you see John throw for 5.
How impressed were you with Cooper Brown? 10 tackles, 7 solo, 1 sack, a tackle and a half for loss. What'd you kind of see from him and the way that he stepped up in the game?
Yeah, I mean, his energy was consistent throughout the game. He played a very, very intense game. I think he may have stripped one of the fumbles that they recovered, and there was a potential play where I think he stripped another one that they had kind of called forward progress on. We just necessarily didn't hear a whistle, but now he played very, very, very well and was intense, and was extremely physical, and made the plays when when the ball came his way. Him and I had a conversation about just keeping our cool throughout the game, and I hope that people understand that Cooper is one of the very, very best kids on our football team, as far as having the right heart for the game and being a good teammate and a good person and those things, and don't judge him too harshly for the face mask at the end of the game, because he's a very, very good person, very good football player.
On the offensive side, TJ seems like he just continues to improve and be a bigger and bigger part of your offense every week. 3 catches, 94 yards, including the 77-yarder pretty early in the game. How have you kind of seen him progress over the course of the year? And then it's got to also be good to see Hassan go for 68 in the same game, to have both of those guys making an impact at the same time.
Yeah, and I think they caught the ball when the ball came their way. I know TJ would have liked to have the one up the Mines sideline back. He kind of went for a one-handed catch and should have went for 2. Something we talk about all the time, but you don't see TJ drop a lot of balls. You don't see Hassan drop very many balls either. We just needed to be able to target them and get them more touches and more catches. Both of those guys are extremely special. once they have the ball in their hand and what they're able to do as far as making defenders miss and stretch the field post catch. But I think they did well with the catches that they had. We got to get them the ball more. We got to be able to get the ball in their hands more and more and more.
And then on special teams, Coleman was out this past week, but Derek Webster stepped up and had a phenomenal game for you guys. Average of 50 yards on punts, 3 inside the 20, and then in field goals was able to make a field goal as well early in the game to kind of give you guys some momentum. What did you see from Derek Webster, and how excited does that kind of make you for the future, seeing the way he was able to contribute in the game?
Yeah, absolutely. We knew going into last week's prep that we'd be without Coleman, and so we didn't necessarily have a kicking tryouts. Our number 2 kicker, Ryan Ewing, has been out since the SBU game in week 2, and so we knew we didn't have Ryan back. And so going to Derek and saying, hey, when's the last time you kicked some field goals? And he has done a little bit at practice throughout the season, but he's typically our holder. He's a very good holder. So we lined it up on Monday. We did some rotational field goals between him and Cade Weber, who's one of our true freshman quarterbacks who did not kick in high school, just played soccer. And one day we were sitting around at the end of practice, and guys want to stick around and play catch and punt balls and just be weird. And Cade's out there kicking off of the sticks, and he's drilling 50-yard field goals. And I'm like, what? When did you start kicking? He goes, this is the first time I've ever kicked. So, okay, well, guess what? You're doing field goals from now on when we go into our 2-group field goal rotation. And, yeah, we did the rotation on Monday. So you got field goal unit on left hash, field goal unit on the right hash, and we basically just kind of rotate in a clockwise circle from hash to hash and keep backing it up. And Derek went 10 of 13 that day, and Cade made a number of field goals as well. And we kind of recognize Derek's not great yet at kickoffs, but Cade really was. And we got to a point where Mines was fair catching our kickoffs, and we got to the point where they started sky kicking their kickoffs to us because LV had a couple of nice returns. And so, that was a huge emphasis going into this season. And we really felt like if we improved our what we call elite teams instead of special teams, if we improved our elite teams, that we'd have a chance to do something special this year. And the way I'm looking at it too, and maybe this question's coming up, Alex, is we still have a chance to do something that's never been done before in these next 3 games. I don't know if we'll have a chance necessarily if we went out to be looking at playoffs. Right now, we're very focused on just Fort Lewis and making sure that we're doing everything that we can to win this ball game. But we've never beat Pueblo. We have them last in our schedule, so that would be a first. And then to finish this season with a winning season be the first time in this D2 era that we've had back-to-back winning season. I think that's continuing to show progress.
Yeah, kind of wanted to address that too, as you guys obviously set out at the beginning of the season to be the best team in the conference. And now that, statistically that's not necessarily likely, you guys still have a lot left in front of you and a lot of goals left on the table that would be a step forward for this program, like you mentioned. How have you kind of seen the guys rally and continue to step up? Because a lot of teams, if they set such a high goal and aren't able to achieve it, you maybe see a little bit of lay down in the second half of the year. Yeah. But you guys were able to go compete against the best this weekend. So how have you kind of seen your guys rally to those new goals and standards for the program?
Yeah, I think, we've talked a lot about it just leading up into this season. And one thing that I really love about my team is they understand the word legacy. They understand what it means to leave something in a better place. They've been good stewards of this, of this privilege to play football. And, you and I talked a little bit after the game, Alex, about, is the improvement of a football team cyclical or linear? And I really, truly believe that it's very linear. And I'll go back to, I remember my first year as the offensive line coach at Lindenwood after I left Sioux Falls with Jed Stugart, and we landed at Lindenwood. We took over kind of a rough team, a team that hadn't won very many games. It was very similar to the situation here. But we took over a team that hadn't won very many games. And at the end of the season, I believe it was our second year, we're sitting 4-6 and 3-7. at the end of the year and we're at Missouri Western. I just remember talking with my offensive line group. I said, we win this game, there's not going to be a Gatorade bath. There's not going to be rings. We're not going to be necessarily celebrating, putting up banners and those type of things. But can you take pride in leaving this program in a better place? Will we be able to pick up momentum next season when you're gone? Some of you seniors, when you're gone, and what does that mean to you? And I have a team that really understands that how we end the season and where we leave it off really, really matters for how we pick it up next season. And, trust me, I'm not thinking about next season quite yet. We still got a lot of work here at hand, but I think it helps that we have mature guys that understand where we've been, how far we've come, and where we want to go. And that just means that, we have to play at a championship and prepare at a championship level every single week. And that needs to become part of who we are and not just something that we do.
Well, you guys this weekend travel to Durango, Colorado to take on Fort Lewis. Obviously, this is a program that's had its struggles over the last few years. Seems like maybe they've competed a little bit more this year than in years past. They've been able to score some points and grab some momentum early in games. But what's the mindset of your team when you go from playing the best team in the country to a team that's struggling? What are you kind of telling the team this week about, hey, we still got to go out and play a football game. We're not chalked up as the winners before we step on the field. What's kind of the mindset of your locker room going into this one?
Yeah, the mindset is, can we take the effort and the focus and the execution that we had in the very best parts of the game last week versus Colorado Mines, and can we apply that same effort, focus, attention, and execution this week? What gets boring is for you to hear and guys on my team to hear who we play shouldn't determine how we play or how we prepare. So, and that's one thing that my team gets, and it's really, really nice. There's obviously lapses and, there's times where we got to remind them that, you signed up for this, and we're going to hold you to a standard every single week. And it doesn't matter who we're playing, but I think it would be a mistake for any football team to disregard the efforts of another team. Like, you better believe that Coach Johnny Cox has got Fort Lewis practicing hard and believing that they're going to win this week. And so, the message is, you want to mess around and find out, go ahead and mess around and find out. Or we can go about work the way that we know best and do things the right way and get the results that we want to get. So, it's my message on Monday was, we have to prepare at a championship level, and that's just because that's what we require and that's what we signed up for. And those are the standards that we set as a football program. And it has nothing to do with who we play. But Fort Lewis is scoring more points on average per game than they had all season last year. They're holding opponents to less points than last year. Their total offense has increased. They're holding other offenses to less yards per game. And so, they're a much improved team, and they seem like they are more gap sound on defense this year, and on offense that they can really scheme you up versus your coverages. And if they get you into something where they know what coverage you're running, you better expect a coverage beater. And they've been doing a pretty good job with that. What we got to do is we got to disrupt the pocket and get home and make sure that their quarterback, who's very good, doesn't have time to get to those reads. So it's a good week for us to get back on track. We're 2 games in a row. 2 losses in a row now. We need to go get a win and get back on track and keep building momentum through the end of the season.
That game kicks off at noon on Saturday in Durango, Ray Dennison Memorial Field down there. How important is it for you guys to kind of bring your own energy in a way when maybe there's not going to be the same kind of atmosphere that you guys are used to at other places in the conference? How important is it for you guys to bring your own energy on your sideline and be ready to go for a noon kickoff?
I think it's very important. I think the toughest environment that we played in so far this year was at Gunnison. And they just had limited seating. It wasn't anything, their new stadium is going to be incredible, and that'll be a huge benefit to the entire conference. But just what they're dealing with right now for their home contest, that was kind of tough. It was quiet. It was very quiet, and there wasn't a ton of people. Our fans were kind of tucked in the corners a little bit. And I got the sense that impacted us a little bit. I'd like to think that it shouldn't, but it just does. And so it's very important. I'm glad you brought that up. We traveled there 2 years ago, and it was kind of a similar situation where it wasn't a loud, huge atmosphere like we have necessarily here at home and those type of things. And we got to expect that when we go on the road. But yeah, I'm gonna be very cognizant of what our energy levels like through warmups and those type of things, and make sure that we as coaches, because everything trickles down, Alex. I mean, if I come out to practice or pregame and I'm, in a bad mood or being quiet and I'm not bringing energy, then my coaches feel like they need to be tight, and then position leaders and players start being tight and quiet and hesitant. And so we just got to let it all hang out. It's such a fun game. It's meant to be played with emotion, and we got to let it all hang out and just go have some fun this weekend.
Well, Coach, I appreciate you joining me, and good luck this weekend. Have a safe trip down to Durango, another long RMAC trip.
Let's go.
It's kind of on brand.
Raising Cane's, though, so that makes it all worth it, right?
Well, I wish you had like some dry ice in a cooler to bring me some back. I can always go for some good chicken tenders.
Oh, man. It's going to be a real treat.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you, Coach. And as always, this is the Black Hill State Football Show. You can join us every week here on the Rapid City Journal and continue to follow along with everything we do for the most complete coverage of Yellow Jacket athletics. Coach, have a good one. Appreciate you joining me.
Thanks, Alex. Have a great day.